Just yesterday, two of your close friends, Tucker Carlson and Glenn, Glenn Greenwald were on Tucker's show, and Glenn Greenwald was making the point that the Ukrainian army is a conscript army, that there's not popular support in Ukraine for the Ukrainian position. Zelensky is a mad dictator of some measure, and with his iron fist, you have unrelenting Ukrainian casualties forced upon Ukraine by the United States government. And I thought I'd give you a chance to respond to that specifically and those two directly. Has to be frustrating as an American putting it all on the line to see Russian television come on and see two American stooges on it.
Yeah, you know what? What do we? First off, I didn't know this was a comedy show. Okay, I'm shocked and laughing. All right, Tucker Carlson he's the Lord Haw Haw, of this war. He's the Tuckio Rose.
Why don't you tell everyone who Lord Haw Haw is, and that's who he is, correct? We're not overstating it, are we?
No, he is a true believer propagandist. What we know about Tokyo Rose is that she was forced into that. I think Lord Haw Haw went along with it. He was right. British. He was a British person. I think he had some noble blood in him. The Germans propped him up as the voice of to speak to the British and the American soldier in Europe. And he was captured at the end of the war and hung as a traitor. But his voice was used as the official mouthpiece towards, the British, like, oh, your U.S. soldiers are over here whining and dining your wives, and trying to insert what we call the weapon of doubt when we use propaganda warfare. But Tucker Carlson is a warm, electric, comfy blanket around Vladimir Putin's posterior. Okay, it doesn't actually affect us, but it makes Putin feel good, right? We hear it. We know he is a mouthpiece for a foreign hostile dictator who wants to take over parts of the world. We know that. So Tucker Carlson has placed that box around him. It's just that he has the liberty of the First Amendment of the United States to allow him to say any stupid thing that he wants to say, which, by the way, I fought my entire life to allow him to say all the stupid things he's saying right now. Now, within Ukraine, it's another matter. Let me explain something. Same with Glenn Greenwald. I hope these two yahoos keep telling the Russians these things, because if the Russians think we're about to break, then they got another thing coming. Look, the Russians know that they're being slaughtered. And I use the word slaughter. I don't use it indiscriminately here. I use it.
Is 200,000 the right number, you suspect?
Right now, the number is 167,500 or something like that. But don't forget, they invaded with 175,000 men. Their professional army is gone. And when they say, hey, it's 10-1, 15-1 shooting against the Russians, I could show you a bunch of videos of guys that stood up against us and had a very bad day. All right. What we call them is dead Zeds, right? Z. Dead Zeds were the ones I went up against. I thought we were dealing with amateurs. They were the VDV, the Airborne Force. We were like, really? Because I'm eating your excellent Special Forces VDV MREs. The Ukrainians have good capability on the ground. Some environments where the Russians have artillery superiority, no one's going to do well in that, right? I don't like being bombarded. But the Russians have to put down 1,000 rounds for every Excalibur round that the Ukrainians have that will kill whatever you just aimed it at. Same thing with HIMARS. The Russians are terrified of HIMARS because it will hit within 3 feet of whatever we aim it at, which is generally 10 little numbers.
I think one thing we completely agree on is that I would assess it that we live in an idiocracy, an age of stupidity. What do you want to say to folks out there who might happen upon this on some algorithmic chance? What do you want to say to them about the lie they're fed from Tucker Carlson, from Glenn Greenwald, from Vladimir Putin about this war, this criminal war taking place in 2023?
I'll tell you something. I often use this analogy because it's so deeply personal to me. And that building behind you on there, on the other side of that steeple, is Washington Square in Philadelphia. And Washington Square was not a square for Washington. It was actually a black cemetery on the edge of Philadelphia, of downtown Philadelphia. And Washington's there, there's a monument to Washington there, but it's actually the first tomb of the unknown soldier. There are 1,200 Revolutionary War soldiers who died of disease buried right behind that building. And on the top of the monument, there is a saying that freedom is a light for which many men have died in darkness. And what I would say, and I believe, oh my God, I believe that saying. Washington was a brilliant man. But more importantly, he understood that the nation had to be brought together and our common foe, the British, had to be fought. But there were many people in the country who historically were waiting to see how it turned out, right? You know, like they wouldn't take newly minted American money. They wouldn't take continental dollars or vouchers. You had to pay them in pounds sterling. And with regards to how America is devolving from that, I say to the Tucker Carlsons, the people, more importantly, to the people who believe them. My family, the Nance family, has had a Nance from 1864 to, well, technically today, serving democracy, serving as people who believe in it. Maybe as freed slaves and descendants, we understand what the common good, the commonwealth means. It's not socialism. It means we work together as American citizens. And my family chose to defend that over the last 150 years with their lives. I believe in it deeply, especially as an old Navy chief, right? I espouse the values of not just my Navy, but my Constitution and everything that comes with your oath. So some of these people need to decide. Are they totalitarians? Or are they Americans? And I meet guys who were in the armed forces, and they were like, "You liberals, we're going to kill you guys." It's like, are you American at all? If this country were attacked, would you side with our enemy? Because you're siding with a dictator who is mass murdering children. And I try to introduce again what we call the weapon of doubt. Tell me, when people come to me, they yell at me. It's like, "Oh, you're that MSNBC guy." I go, "No. I'm a real patriot. I love this country. I will die for this country. I have almost died for this country in the U.S. Armed Forces, but with pleasure, right?" My niece, I'll give you a quick story. My niece was a cook in the Navy. On her first cruise on her ship, she was involved in a missile attack, right? And they had her in the kitchen with 18 years old with a fire hose and a fire bunker there. And she didn't understand why they were off Yemen having missiles lobbed at her. But she knew the woman behind her on the hose and the guy on the front of it and the chief in Damage Control Central, that's us. We're Americans. And whoever's coming at us is coming at us. How have we lost that with the Republican Party? I used to be a Republican. I was a Colin Powell, national security strong, socially liberal guy. I'm down in the lower left quadrant now of the XY axis, next to people who are decided they actually can govern. But there's something wrong. The values are broke. And I'm sick of seeing people who call themselves veterans who say that they're loyal to the Constitution and wave the "We the People" flag. You're in an idiocracy. You don't even know what that means. We the people means all of us. Even you who say stupid things on Fox News and talk pretty damn near the treason, but I'm smart enough to know treason's the only crime in the Constitution and we have to be at war. So what you have is free speech, stupid free speech, but you still have it. They think that we should all take it away from everyone other than them. I call that a constitutional autocracy, the trappings of America. That's what they want. I'm not going to let them have it. That's why I'm back. I'm back to